What's your story? Kent, what's your story? Which one? The good one or the not so good one? Amanda, what's your story? Amanda's new to me, so I'm going to pick her on it anyway. She's been here probably more than I have. But that's a tough question, isn't it? That's I can see like, oh my gosh, the wheels start turning. Which one? Or I'm going to laugh here until I think about what you're talking about and pretend you're really not going to ask me that question. So I won't ask you that question. But our story, we all have. It's part of who we are. It's part of our history. It's part of what we believe. It's part of our experiences. And our story is tied up oftentimes in our role in the world, what we would call a vocation. We've all got multiple vocations. We are husbands, we are mothers, we are workers, we are acolytes at church, we are volunteers, we're friends. And our vocation, that thing that we do, and our story helps us fit into the world. Now, if we have a story that's kind of like a lot of other people's stories, or at least we tell our story that way, we do fit in. And it's easy to be known, and it's easy to get to know other people. It's kind of easy to know who we are. But if we have a story that's a little bit like different than other people around us, what happens then? It's a little bit awkward, isn't it? Sometimes we're not real comfortable. I have some friends, back when I was a stockbroker in my previous life, and they went to a training back in New York, and they were both Giants fans. So there was a Giants Yankees game going on. And so they went to the Yankees game, they went to Yankee Stadium. You know, it was a rainy, cool day. They had their long trench coats on. And they were sitting in the stadium, cheering for the Giants, you know, and they're surrounded by all these Yankee fans. And they're all having a good time. And they got up to leave, and as they stood up, they realized that during the whole game, these Yankee fans had been grabbing those big bottles of ketchup and mustard and squirting them all over the backs of their raincoats. So they got up there just covered, drenched in ketchup and mustard. Their story was a little bit too different than everybody else's story. And there's consequences to that. You know, if you were a conservative in this country in the last 10 years, how'd your story fare with the rest of the world? It was tough, wasn't it? And if you are a little more liberally inclined, how's your story fared since the elections stuff happened? Now, your story is a little bit out of line. Sometimes we stay the same, but the world around us changes. And now our story becomes difficult. Or maybe your story changes. Maybe who you are changes. I know stories of parents who were very anti-homosexual, and then their child came home and said, I'm getting married to my partner. That rocked their world. And they oftentimes changed their story. Maybe, I know people who have taken mission trips to third world countries and been kind of hardcore, pull yourself up by your bootstraps people. And they go and see this abject poverty and realize, oh my goodness, not everybody who's poor is lazy. And their story changed. I remember when I was a young man, I was going to be successful, and we had a house, and I had set up a den, and Mary remembers this. It was my den, and my stuff here is mine. And suddenly, somebody had this little baby girl, and I gave up my den, and I put a crib there instead. And my story changed. I didn't spend as much time at work. I became a dad. And so sometimes when our stories change, when the world changes, we get pushback from people. We're not the same people that we were. We're not the same people they wanted us to be. And sometimes it's kind of annoying and kind of a pain. But sometimes it's serious, isn't it? You think of an instance when people's stories conflicted and there were big consequences. You know, the early... actually, let me ask this first. What is that word we use for somebody who dies for a cause they believe in? A martyr. But you know what the word martyr means? It's a Greek word, actually. It means witness. All it means is a witness. It's not somebody who intentionally goes out to kill themselves. The word martyr means witness. It's just, I'm telling you my story. History is full of people who just had a story that was so out of sync with the rest of the world that they were killed for it. And that's where the word martyr kind of came in for. And so we look back at in Rome, Christians who were, before Constantine, who were esteemed as anti-Roman, anti-culture, thrown to the lions. We saw all kinds of Christians in the Middle Ages who were chopped to pieces by other Christians because their brand of Christianity wasn't the right brand of Christianity. Lutherans were part of this whole thing on both sides. And today, we look at countries like Somalia, Iran, North Korea, where just to be a witness of your story as a Christian can be death. So we saw this guy this morning, didn't we? Who has a story. And what happens as he tells his story? What do we see there in the story that I told about this guy who went from being blind to seeing? What happened as he told his story? He gets more adamant. Was that?
It's spreading from people to other people to others.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mary. He becomes more, I wrote the word stubborn, but adamant is better like that. He just becomes more defiant and more clear. Hey, this is my story. And it becomes a story that spreads to others because now 2,000 years later, we're telling that story. So here's what happens. Now, just watch this progression. So the guy's blind, and Jesus comes over and spits in the dirt and rubs dirt in his eyes. Anybody know why he did that? Because scholars don't know, so I don't anybody here would know. It's kind of a weird thing to do, and maybe it was a tactile thing, or it was just such a weird... But so Jesus does this, and the guy washes off his eyes, and he can see. And the neighbors surround him and say to themselves, What happened? Who is this guy? Is this that guy? Yeah, it kind of looks like him now. And they can't really figure out who he is. So they figure out that it didn't happen. And they say, what happened? And the man says, the man called Jesus made mud and rubbed it in my eyes. Now what did he call Jesus? He said, he's got it. The man did this. And then the Pharisees come in and they confront him and they say, what happened? And what does he say? Remember what he says from that scripture? He's a prophet. So when I went from being a man to being a prophet. Now what is a prophet? Yeah, we oftentimes think of prophets as people who foretell the future and who prophesize, and that kind of can mean that. But yeah, prophet really means a proclaimer, a teller, a teacher. More of a proclaimer than a teacher, but somebody who's in that ilk. Okay, so then they ask him again, And he says, what, you guys want to become disciples too? Like, that's a way to make friends with those guys. And what does he say the third time? He was a man, he was a prophet, and he says, this man from God. No, you can be a man, and then you can be a man who talks about God, but then if you are a man of God. And then they kick him out because they're sick of him. And Jesus comes to him and says, hey, who am I? And what does he do? Remember? He bows down and he worships him. See, no good Jew would ever worship an angel or a goat or a calf or a bronze calf. You only worship Yahweh. So the man goes from describing Jesus as a man to a prophet to a man of God to God. The more this guy tells his story, the stronger his story gets. What is your story? You know, I ask you kind of throw it out and people just kind of, what is your story? Maybe you've never thought about it. Maybe you've thought about it and you've never really put it together, or maybe you've never had a chance to tell your story. But we can see this man giving the example of how powerful it is to have a story and then to tell that story. Because his story isn't something he read in a book. It's not somebody's story. It's his personal experience. It's his personal understanding of his beliefs and his values. It's not an argument for why Jesus is the Christ, why Jesus is God, why God did. It's a personal testimony, a personal expression of his experience, beliefs, and values. It's what he believes, what he values, what he knows to be true. And it's powerful, isn't it? Because we are talking about it 2,000 years later. What is your story? If you struggle for some pieces about that, let me give you a couple pieces. You have been sought out. God seeks you out and comes to you. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and it was good. Tov. I love that word in Hebrew. It was Tov. And then 3 verses later, what happens? Remember? Just 3 verses into the thing, they screw it all up, don't they? Oh yeah, we weren't supposed to eat that apple. Oh yeah. Now we're getting kicked out. 3 verses. There are 929 verses in the New Testament, in the Protestant New Testament. 929. And it only took 3 for us to mess it all up. But the entire rest of that book is about God coming to us, to reclaim us, to bring us back in. Your story, God comes to you. Another piece of your story. You've been made new. You are a sinner. You have done stuff. We all have done stuff. We all have those things that we wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, I wish I had not done that, or oh man, I should have done that, or we all have that dirt that clings to us. We are people that it just happens. We are a magnet for those types of things. It's the way we're built. But we are people who have taken a shower. We are people who have scrubbed that dirt off, and we step out of the shower and we smell like that good smelling shampoo that makes us say, I am clean. That's who we are. Now we may go rub the dirt back on us, but we are people that are clean. And God sees us as fresh-smelling, good shampoo-smelling people. We are clean. White as snow, the Scripture says. Thirdly, we are citizens of where? The United States, America, North America. We are citizens, as Paul say, of heaven. And we are citizens of this place, but we are also people who are citizens of the new heavens and the new earth. That is our story. Those are facts that are true about us. Those are things we can hold on to. Know it. Believe it. Live it. It's your story. And when you struggle to put that story together, when somebody puts you in the squeeze, puts you in the corner, says, "Who are you, you Christian, you?" Know that telling your story, you will not tell your story alone. Matthew 9 says, "Do not be anxious on how you are to speak or what you are to say when people put it to you. For what you are to say will be given to you in that hour." So we have a story. And we got to know our story. But if we're really pushed, those words will be given to us. Our story is given to us by God. We are given our story. We are given that identity. We are given that gift of who we are and how to say it. We have a story, and it may be difficult at times. We may be challenged by that, and Jesus knows that. Because what happens when this guy tells his story and he gets kicked out? What happens? What's Jesus do? He comes to him. He found him. Because that's what Jesus does. He comes to us when we are in stress. That's part of our story. There is nothing in our story that we tell that Jesus cannot handle. And if we tell our story and it causes us pain and suffering, we are never alone in telling that story. We are never alone in telling our story. So know your story. Understand your story. Live your story. Know what you believe. Know what you've experienced. Be able to share that, or at least think about how you might share it. And know that when you share it, you will not ever share it alone. Because he comes to you. And those words will be his. In Jesus' name.